I believe that the Cincinnati Bengals will win the AFC North in 2026 and return to the level of dominance that we once saw at the very beginning of Joe Burrow's career. Before I continue on with today's video delivering my futures predictions for the AFC North, make sure to hit the like button on this video if you're a Bengals fan or just a fan of one of these teams in the AFC North. Comment below which team you think wins the division, and also subscribe so you don't miss out on all the great content that we have coming this football season. So as I said, looking at the odds for the division for this upcoming year, we've got the Bengals at plus 184, the Ravens are the favorites at minus 112, Steelers at plus 510, and then the Browns plus 2100. Look, I understand that a lot of people are going to want to buy into the Ravens, and I'm going to get to their situation in a second here. I find it hard for me to invest in a first-year head coach because it just doesn't happen often that a first-year coach is just going to go on, no problems, hit the ground running, get through an entire 17-game schedule, and win their division. Ravens could be a really good team this upcoming year. They can absolutely get to the playoffs. They can absolutely get back to what they once were before their down year a year ago that was plagued by injuries. But in the preseason, the very beginning of the year, I'm not going to put confidence and also put money into betting on a team that is a minus odd favorite to go on to win the division. Again, with a first-year head coach, first-time head coach. Let's talk, though, about the Bengals, because the Bengals have the easy case to build for. Now, Zach Taylor has not really lived up to everybody's expectations since they got to the Super Bowl against the Rams. There's been a gradual regression. There was a steep fall-off defensively. Burrow's been hurt and banged up. There's just been problem after problem after problem. This year provides an opportunity to respond to those issues because, and this is a theme that I've had with a lot of my predictions for divisions, my division picks, I'm going to bet on the teams that self-reflected, understood what their issues were, and not trying to duct tape those issues. There's plenty of teams in the NFL that, just try to super glue a problem and hope that they're going to be fine, only realizing that there's no actual reinforcement for that issue. The trade for Dexter Lawrence is the big thing that I'm talking about here. As a Giants fan, somebody who's watched the Giants closely, I understandably can see any apprehension for expectation for what Dexter Lawrence is going to do. He didn't play well last year. He was checked out. Your best player, their best player, was checked out because the team was playing poorly. He's playing an unselfish position. It's hard to be motivated 100% of the time. But he is now on a roster that is far more equipped to win now than what the Giants were. And I think that Lawrence has shown that he is an unselfish leader and capable of raising the performance of everybody else around him. But outside of Dexter Lawrence, because of course he's critical, he is going to bat down the run defense. He is going to help the performance of the linebackers that struggled last year, with Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter being very, very gifted athletes that just had a tough time as rookies. You've got a dude in front of them that's great at eating up space, who's going to give them time to react and just to play more freely. But I really thought that going and getting Jonathan Allen was underrated because he's a veteran, hard-nosed, physical defensive tackle. You needed more quality veterans. You don't need Jonathan Allen to play like Jonathan Allen in his most dominant stretches. I think Boye Mafe was a really underrated pickup because you needed to add to your pass rush. Shamar Stewart, who was a player who was labeled as green and developing, he is now entering year 2, should be a potential for a major jump. And I loved the pickup of Cassius Howell, who they took in this past draft, because I think that you can get a lot out of him as a designated pass rusher. He doesn't need to start for you. He probably won't start for you. He gets to be dropped into a situation where he can be a situational player who you let him pin his ears back on third downs, and he could shock people and be one of the more productive rookie pass rushers because he's in that right circumstance. I just think that this defense, they were aggressive for once. They are a team that has not been aggressive in spending money and making trades. A front office that has just always been really weird about operating with that. To bring in Mafe, to bring in Lawrence, to bring in Allen, and also even bring in Brian Cook and Kyle Duggar as a backup piece. This team, to me, looks a lot different. It's got veterans in the right spots. It's got young up-and-coming talent in other areas as well. And we haven't even talked about the offense. Obviously, defensively is the biggest thing. If this defense doesn't show progress, then this team is going to potentially struggle. The natural, easy way to buy into the Bengals is the fact that the minute that Joe Burrow got back on the field, this team turned the corner. Now, they weren't perfect, but they turned the corner. There was a different version of this team. Justifiably, you have a guy who could be an MVP caliber quarterback on the field leading your offense. You're going to play a lot better, but you get him back on the field. Hopefully, he doesn't get plagued by another injury. Be horrendous luck if that did come to fruition. The core that you have offensively with Joe Burrow, with hopefully solid offensive line play, is the reason to buy in. When your defense was as awful as it was a year ago, as long as there was marginal improvement, that should be enough to win the division. The Steelers, the Browns are in a different wonky category, and you're dealing with a Ravens team that is a first-year head coach. Marginal defensive improvement is all that is needed. They were able to win games last year when Burrow was back, despite the defensive woes. I really think that this Bengals team is going to shock a lot of people, and I love the fact that you're able to grab this at plus 184. That is absolutely who I am betting on for my futures pick for this division. Now, to talk about the Ravens, I like the Ravens, obviously, and can understand why it's easy to just buy in because it's Lamar. They were really banged up last year. If they're potentially healthier, they should return to dominance. From a betting perspective, this isn't even like truly from like a prediction perspective. From a betting perspective, it is too much of an unknown for me what to expect with a first-year coach. I think that Jesse Minter is going to be a tremendous coach. I've compared him to Mike McDonald, where I think by year 2, that is when we will see the new identity of the team like really hit. McDonald was a great coach, but it took him 2 years. It takes time to rebuild a culture, especially when you had a guy like Harbaugh that was there for so long and he was the identity of the team. That is a challenge that I think a lot of people simply overlook. Now, I loved what they did this offseason in terms of bolstering some of their issues on the roster. Vega Ione was an awesome pickup, one of the best players in the class that I think that was somewhat overlooked because he was just a guard. It's, you're not going to get a lot of hype up for a guard prospect. He is going to be one of the better immediate impact rookies in my eyes. And I liked the pickups of Elijah Surratt and Jacoby Lane, adding to what's been a pretty good wide receiver room. Matabike expected to be coming back, and you also went and got Trey Hendrickson. You're going to be a lot better defensively than last year because your defense was dealing with a ton of injuries. But I think that if the Bengals are a lot better and this ends up being a much tighter race, I am going to feel a lot stronger about going with a team led by a coach that has gotten to a Super Bowl, that has dealt with a lot of challenges over the past couple of years that have held the team back. I don't think it's ridiculous to say that a team, it's not like Taylor has not been successful. Taylor has succeeded and has produced results. I don't know what to expect from Minter. I don't. We're gonna find out. Maybe I'm going to be completely shown, proven wrong. But we're gonna have to see first. I would like to see some results. Now, the one team that I'm fully bought out on, I don't want to touch the Steelers team. I think that they're going to continue to get worse. I think that there weren't enough moves that they made this offseason with how they operated in order to grow off of what was kind of a stagnant year. No aggressiveness, and all they could do at quarterback was bring back Aaron Rodgers. I do not feel threatened by Aaron Rodgers at this age. I don't. Aaron Rodgers is nowhere near the same player that he once was. I don't think that that's a hot take. I don't think anyone's thinking like, wow, that's so profound. Everyone saw it last year. Aaron Rodgers was great because he was amazing at improvising and creating. And he can't do that anymore. I don't feel threatened. And they don't have any other options at quarterback. What, am I supposed to believe that Will Howard or Mason Rudolph or Drew Aller is going to step in and carry this team? They've got a great offensive line that potentially could have a pretty good run game. But I don't feel threatened by this team. I think defensively they'll be solid. This is an aging roster that did not show any aggressiveness in the offseason and quite frankly had a pretty mediocre draft class. We should be talking about this Steelers team as one of the potentially most mediocre rosters this upcoming year. It's going to be a real sobering season, I think, for Steelers fans. And then lastly, let's just talk about the Browns. I think that the Browns could be plucky and not do damage, but show some signs of promise. Getting rid of Myles Garrett removes the possibility that defensively they win a couple of close games because they just maul an opposing team like they did with the Packers last year. Quarterback's going to be a problem. I think that they should start Shedeur Sanders and just see what's there and see if they can get anything out of him. But I love what this offensive line looks like compared to a year ago. I love Boston and Concepcion coming in at receiver. I loved Emmanuel McNeil-Warren as one of their picks. There's a lot of young pieces, but they're a year away from being a year away. They have a good foundation to bring in a young quarterback, but they are still a team that is working and growing and improving, but it's a nice little foundation that they've established after what was a pretty solid offseason in 2026. Folks, comment below which team you think is going to win the AFC North this upcoming year. Hit the like button and subscribe. I'll talk to you later.